A new study was released by The Hill talking about public support for military intervention in Iran. Let's take a look at these numbers and then we'll talk about it. So you can see over here on the chart essentially 49% seek a negotiated solution, 9% support do nothing, and then respond with limited military strike, 19%, declare war is 5%, and 19% of people are unsure. So, I mean, you can add up the numbers yourself, but essentially 24% of people here want some kind of military action, but then the vast majority of people at 76% are either unsure or support no military option. And this is clearly really good news, right? Like, we are bombarded with constant propaganda for us to go to war. It's war. It's war. I mean, you'll remember just a few months ago, it was all about, are we going to invade in Venezuela because, Maduro and like all this other all this other nonsense um, about intervention. And of course, now the question is Iran. And so, what I want to talk about actually briefly, I want to bring up someone by the name of John Bolton. You may have heard of him. He definitely has the president's ear. Absolute neocon. He has never once in his life heard of a war that he didn't support. He always seems to want intervention. He was big on trying to get us into war with Venezuela, and now he's busy trying to get us into war with Iran. So the thing about John Bolton that you need to understand, though, is he is out here telling everybody, trying to hype up this propaganda machine, and thank God it's not working. But his propaganda is essentially this: he's saying that we need to be a counterbalance to this terrible Shia-led majority in Iran, and that they are absolutely dominating the region, and so we need to sort of be a balance to their power. We need to be the kind of offshore balancer, is the academic term. And now, there's a little bit of issue, and I think the American people, as you can see here, are really picking up on this, but there's a bit of an issue with John Bolton's analysis because he also supported the Iraq War. Now, you'll remember the Iraq War, we were trying to topple Saddam Hussein, and now what you need to remember, though, is Saddam was Sunni. Remember, Iran is Shia. And so effectively, Iraq worked as the counterbalance to Iran in the region. We didn't need to be a balance of, we didn't need to do sort of offshore balancing if we wanted to be, if, we were sort of a foreign policy realist, as John Bolton, claims he is. He really just seems to be a mass bloodshedder, but that's, that's aside the point. So, in other words, the region was self balancing because, essentially they would check each other. But then what they did when they toppled Saddam is they turned around and installed a Shia leader, which just then turned around and allied or connected itself with Iran. So, yeah, now we have a region with with a lot of power, which can control the oil supply, can control the resources in the region in a way that now suddenly the United States feels threatened. And I mean, it's easier to pinpoint specific people, but again, this really is a broader thing. But this propaganda on getting involved in Iran wouldn't have happened if these same people, John Bolton, didn't get us involved in Iraq. And it really does. It really makes me upset because they're going to tell you, what they tell you is John Bolton touts this figure. If you listen to just about anything he says right now, he's telling you that Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror. But that's not true. That's a lie. You want to know who the number one state sponsor of terror is in the Middle East? Saudi Arabia, our ally. I mean, do you remember Khashoggi? Do you remember when Khashoggi was killed? Apparently not, because Donald Trump turned around and said, well, we have some great trade deals, so we don't want to mess that up, so we're not actually going to, do anything, but we really don't like what you did. That was a bad thing. So I am absolutely just outraged. I do not understand why we have to be talking about war with Iran, and I am so glad this poll that you saw here, this makes me happy that only 24% of people support some kind of military intervention and everybody else is either unsure or wants no military option. That is a good thing, and it makes me happy that this propaganda isn't working. But it's important that we keep these facts in mind so that the propaganda then doesn't start to work. Or, next time there's some other war, we have to remember to look back at the historical situation and keep in mind, hey, why is this like this in the first place? So, and it does seem, by the way, it does seem like Donald Trump is backing out a little bit, at least a little bit. I mean, it's still, as of recording this, it's still a bit too soon to call. But it does seem like he's backing off a little bit from some of the tougher language on Iran. And maybe this has to do with the poll, which is good. That, I mean, quite frankly, look, however Donald Trump comes to his conclusions of, hey, I don't want to invade, fine by me. He can come to it because he saw it in a dream that we shouldn't invade Iran, and I'm good with it. Just as long as we don't invade Iran, and these numbers are looking really good. So maybe that's what it is. But as long as John Bolton is there, we have to be careful. Hopefully that won't be much longer.